All right. Well, guys, our last interview ever, and we may or may not have a good one. A lot better than that joke. Mayor Ken Johnston, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here. This is going to be our last interview for the Oh Dear podcast, and we really appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Well, who could resist, really? And I will say right now, guys, that this is an honor I never thought I would get. But here I am. I mean, and on your swan song, I'm sad to see you go. And I speak for, I know you were kidding about this, your tens of followers, but I know they're in the hundreds and thousands and all those good things, to the swan song today. So it's quite an honor to be here for sure.
Dan, we're honored that you're here. And just right off the hop, what is it? Your worship, Mayor Ken, your Majesty, your Highness? I don't know the lingo.
Hey, dog.
Well, I tried your holiness for a while. I will say that, and then somebody else has got that, and I kind of thought I couldn't use that. But anyway, on a more serious vein, it's kind of funny you bring that up, because a lot of people wonder, how should they address the mayor? But my goodness, the mayor's the servant of the public, and so shouldn't be necessarily so formal. But Mayor Ken's good for me, or just mayor. I get the heebie-jeebies when people go your worship or something. I'm not sure if I'm led to sacrifice, or I'm going to be sacrificed for something. But Mayor Ken's all good, or mayor, whatever feels good. I'm fine.
Just not dog.
Okay.
Just not dog.
Good thing you claimed your holiness already.
Yeah.
So first off, we're just over a year now since you were elected as mayor, and 8 years, 2 terms on council before that for you. But how has the first year been? Obviously, that transition out of we're still in a pandemic, but the transition slowly out of it. How has that been so far?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm glad you mentioned the pandemic, because if the first year had been in a pandemic, it really would have affected what I wanted to do as mayor. So it's been a very, very busy year, and we've opened up City Hall to all kinds of people, groups, citizens. I've gone out, into the community. I was telling one of my office staff the other day, I think I counted over 300 events in the calendar in the last 12 months. But that's always been the job of the mayor, is to have an open City Hall and to have City Hall go out into the community. So it's been a blur. I had 40 years in the bank before my 8 years on council, and nothing prepared me for the pace. It's the pace, really, that really ignites you, if you will. And it's been a dizzying experience, a privilege, of course, very humbling, but a fantastic 12 months, I think.
So when you got the key to the city, what was the first door that you opened?
Well, it's amazing. That's a fantastic question, and when I find that key, I'll use it. I will. But it's kind of funny. My first interaction on the job was recording a greeting for CFR last year.
Oh,
and we shot it outside, and thankfully, it obviously was a little better than it is the last few days. We shot that outside, but I had been Santa Claus, which probably shouldn't surprise you, for the last 12 or 13 years for the Festival of Trees and the Santa Claus parade downtown and the lights the night. So I was fired on the first day of being mayor from being Santa Claus by the administration, saying, we're not sure the mayor and Santa Claus should be the same. I hope this isn't going out to anybody under 18.
Wait a minute, what do you mean?
There is a Santa. I want this corrected. There is a Santa for everybody out there. It's all good. Just Santa has different helpers. So anyway, So great question. But it's a funny memory, getting laid off, if I might say. I'll be back behind the sleigh at some point, but it won't be for a while yet. That's for sure.
And we have coworker Aaron here for the interview, and Andrew. Andrew's never come to an interview before, and it showed because he started interviewing you before the mics were even on. But Andrew, you did have a really good question, I think, that you should ask again now that the time is appropriate.
So I'd asked Ken earlier if at 30 years old he ever envisioned himself being the mayor of any city, for that matter. And then I was thinking along the lines of, well, Lund's a banker. Maybe Lund will be the mayor.
Oh no!
Oh, there, you know, and I often say there's life, you know, beyond the bank or after the bank, you know. But that's a great question, you know. Does anybody really get out of bed in the morning at any age and say, you know, are they going to be in public life? Are they going to be the mayor? Are they going to be an MP? You know, God knows what. But you know, I came to Alberta in 1980, so I was all of 26 in those days. Came out with a chartered bank and they were opening a lot of branches and they reached into the Maritimes. That was my home province, Newfoundland, and came out in those days, came to Red Deer in 96, got involved in the community to a large extent, Chamber of Commerce, the Westerner, the United Way, Stars, you know, a whole bunch of boards, all those good things. Started to see Red Deer, just the most fantastic city that I'd ever lived in. And the road, you know, the road led to public service, not something I went after. And often I tell people that if you are aspiring to be in public life, let it come to you, especially a position like this. You know, this is a position that's bestowed upon you. You don't have a resume or whatever. You know, the community bestows this on you. And so let the position come to you. Let the leadership come to you. And then, you know, it's kind of genuine. So yeah, you know, did I ever imagine I'd be mayor? I wish my mom was still alive. She often said, you know, Ken, you'll never amount to anything. However,
do we have the same mom?
However, we may have the same mom, Ted. You know, however, I will say, Mom, you know, I landed on my feet in the greatest city in the world, and so here we are.
So, Mr. Mayor, you know, I've had 20 minutes with you here tonight, and I've seen you at a few events, yes. Different charity events and stuff, and you just have an infectious positivity to you. And
thank you.
So, my question, I guess, is 300 meetings or events a year. How do you keep that going day to day and throughout the year?
Well, you know, there's the practical side, and that's, you know, sort of taking care of yourself. So if you're in my neighborhood at 4:30 in the morning, you'll see the mayor up. The mayor's up and around. I get up at 4:30.
Hey, me too.
There you go. All good. And you know, but I'm tucked away by 8:30, and I try not to take too many evenings. You know, all those things. So there's that practical side of it. I think what keeps me going, and I'll say for council also to extend it, but I really think what keeps me going is the joy of service. And I don't want to over sort of, you know, jump up on a soapbox or whatever the case may be. But once again, the community looks to their mayor and says, when they invite the mayor, when the mayor is present, it's really the population of the city that he represents. And so there is a certain honor then to the charity or to the event or whatever. And it's the excitement of meeting people. I love people. Everyone's got a story. We all build a city together. Every one of us, present company, very much included. What you've been doing and what you will do will build the city. And so I try to get that message across to people that, hey guys, we're in this together. And, yeah, but I got to say by 8:30, the old battery is looking pretty dull and it's time for bedtime for sure. So great question.
So you've been in the role for over a year now. Is there anything that's really surprised you in his first year in office?
You know, the 8 years on council certainly prepared me for some of the files we're working on and the issues we have. For example, the shelter and some of the housing issues we have, the economic development issues, things like that. I would say the biggest surprise would be the pace of the job. I didn't realize the job would be as high a pace. I'm very fortunate. I've got great office people behind me to look after, you know, the routine things and the things that would take away from the community. As a community wants to see its mayor and so on. So the pace was a bit of a surprise. I had to adjust. Took me a couple of months to adjust to the fact that you have no more privacy. You go to the supermarket and it might take you an hour and a half to get home, which is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that.
Have you ever gone out in a disguise just so you can get some peace and quiet?
You know, I've been tempted, you know, but I think it's the, you know, it's the balding head and the beard that give me away every time and that kind of thing. I will say, I like to have some fun with people, and often people will look at you and you kind of think they know you, and then you kind of just talk to them and say, "Do you know the mayor of Red Deer?" And they'll say, "You know, I've never met the guy.
I heard he's a real piece of garbage.
I hear he's a real piece of work. Exactly. And then I'll just introduce myself or whatever. You know, people are fantastic, by and large. And even those that are more difficult, often they want to be heard and recognized and listened to, and unfortunately the last few years, we've pitted ourselves in different camps and it's a bit of a shame and so on. Red Deer is greater than that. I think our council reflects that, and the differences of opinion we have, and we still get the job done. And so, I would say the pace and the privacy, would be the two big surprises.
And speaking of council, this is actually a very timely interview. We didn't plan this, but yesterday council just put out the 2023 to 26 strategic plan. And I know there's 3 key points to that. And since I don't have my notes in front of me, I'll let you talk about those 3 key points. Yeah.
The strategic plan is really the roadmap for council. When a council is elected, it usually puts a strategic plan together for the remainder of the term, typically 3 more years, plus the first year of the next term to enable the next council to do its work. So we picked 3 themes that were validated by the public. Over 99% of the people we spoke to were in agreement that thriving city was our first theme. Community health and well-being was our second theme. And then an engaged community was our third theme. And they're really intertwined, of course, in many ways. We're certainly devoted to economic development, tourism, a thriving downtown, inclusion, Indigenous relations, tourism, those kinds of things, an open city hall, transparency, et cetera. I say for people that are looking for the strat plan, it's online. You can certainly look at it. And council put, and I'm really getting, political like here. I get that. So I need your tolerance here. So council put a bunch of outcomes together as measuring, sort of measuring sticks, if you will, to see what we were doing. And it's our way really of allowing the public, allowing our great city to be able to say, hey, you are moving the dial on that, or no, you're not doing anything on that. And it's our way of being accountable. So I appreciate you bringing up the strat plan. It's a great plan. And it's going to keep us busy over the next 3 years, and then the new council in the first year of their term.
And I know we've got some very Red Deer specific questions, but one more thing on council, just because in my time doing news in Okotoks and High River, I covered what felt like a million council meetings. And I'm just curious, you don't have to say what it was about, but I've seen council go back and forth about, honestly, some pretty not important shit. What is the longest that you, whether you're, honestly, they do it. And I'm sure I am.
Never in Red Deer. Okotoks, I can believe. I can believe Okotoks, but not Red Deer.
But what has the longest, whether as a councillor or as mayor, what's the longest that council has debated like any one subject in one meeting?
Wow. Let's think about that. I would go, in that we're in a lighter vein here, and I appreciate you going there. I would go pollinators, bees. We had, I know.
You owe me $20.
Well, I told you. What is the buzz about that? But anyway, all good.
Oh, stop it.
Stop it, Mayor Ken. It's all good. I actually saved that and came in with that today. I have to think about these things.
Your speechwriters probably wrote that one.
So anyway, no, he lost his job today, unfortunately. Nice kid. But anyway, so yeah, I remember, when you talk about one subject, if you were talking about one issue, it certainly would be the shelter. We've really wrestled with that the last few years, actually, kind of thing. But one issue was about pollinator habitat. And I know it sounds light, but at the time, several councillors were prepared to die on their swords, to throw themselves out of a building or whatever the case may be, to get the thing done. And so that was, I think we started at 1 in the afternoon, and it was just about 9:45 when we finally put that sucker to bed.
Oh, that stings.
I love that.
Did I just get a new job as a speechwriter? Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
So were you on the right side of the whole?
I was.
Issue?
I was, and I marveled at some of the debate as it was going round and round, and there was quite a to and fro is all I'll say. It was back probably, I would say circa 2014 or so, when I was new on council, and marveling that this could take this amount of time. So.
And you still stayed on for 8+ years after that. I would have been done. Yeah.
I did. Yes. Yeah. I hung in there. So it was all good.
So we talk about the strat plan and some of the measurable sticks. Downtown Red Deer.
Yeah.
Revitalize downtown, re-energize downtown.
Yeah.
I think I've kind of heard it all over the last 15, 20 years. And there's been some great things. The Ross Street patio, some of the small businesses and restaurants we got downtown. But kind of what's the next step to kind of, re-energize or revitalize it?
Well, that's a great question, and I think as difficult as this might sound, I've been downtown since 1996, and I've never really felt unsafe downtown. But there's a perception in the community that downtown is unsafe, and it's a tough place to come, and all those kinds of things. So we need to solve the shelter issue first. That's getting closer. If yesterday at council, you might have seen that the province has okayed the site for us. We still have to get into negotiations now. So we need to solve how we're providing vulnerable supports and so forth, and do that in the best way that we can. And my hat's off to the agencies that work in that space and the work that they do. You don't work in addictions or shelter for the retirement plan. I can tell you that is a tough road of service, and my hat is off to everybody that's in that area. So we'll get the shelter solved, and then we need to get Capstone off the ground and get that moving. There's some good interest in it now post-COVID. That's starting to take off again. There's a couple of what I would call catalysts. One is the hospital. If we can get that hospital put to bed, the Justice Center will help as well in terms of bringing people into the core and so on. There's a lot of moving parts. I think we need a more of a cultural space downtown. Council's looking at that in this budget and going forward. And really, I think when you put all of those things together, then downtown revitalization becomes more tangible. But the core message, and I tell this to people frequently, if you think downtown is unsafe, or if you think it's dying, or if it's inert or whatever, when was the last time you came down and did some shopping on a Saturday? And God bless our malls and our other parts of town and the Costco's of the world. And this is not a message about that, but in the same vein, when was the last time you chose downtown to come down on a Saturday, come down on a Friday night, drop into a restaurant, go into a retailer, those kinds of things? We have the future of downtown. We're all capable of revitalizing downtown. It's as simple sometimes as making the decision to come down and visit the gift shop, have a little lunch, go over to Capstone and take a look at the river and really get into it there, and really downtown revitalization becomes something we can all do, not just wait for some, sort of magical or turn of the dial, if you will. Downtown revitalization belongs to all of us.
I love that. That was a great answer, by the way.
Thank you.
So, Ken, I just have I guess as a real estate agent, I'm seeing a lot of this. So we've got a lot of people moving into the province right now. And the bulk of the population coming in is going to Edmonton and Calgary, obviously, because there tends to be more jobs. And one thing I'm hearing consistently is that the younger population wants to be in the larger cities. One thing I've really felt just with the ups and downs of the real estate market is that the Red Deer job economy is very oil and gas focused, oil and gas servicing focused, to the tune of what I was told was at one point 10% of our jobs were kind of oil and gas based. So I guess what I'm finding now is that a lot of the people coming into Red Deer are coming here as a price point buy because we're much more affordable than some of the larger cities. But one question I have is what is the city doing, or what is council doing to attract new businesses, new jobs, tech sector jobs, anything like that, to actually bring more population to Red Deer than simply just the people who are looking to, get more affordable real estate?
Great question, because post-COVID, I'll just talk a little bit about post-COVID, and some of the lifestyle impacts that are happening post-COVID. People started to really reconnect to the outdoors, really reconnect to the outside and so on. And suddenly Red Deer became an item on their map, a choice for lifestyle. However, when you look at it from an employment perspective, as you say, that's where we're challenged. So there's a couple of things. When I ran, for example, I ran on a diversified economy as it relates to carbon capture, as it relates to hydrogen, as it relates to renewables, that kind of thing. Yes, the tech sector will look at, say, the Calgarys and Edmontons, but I will say this, and this was also part of one of the reasons why I ran. There will be a high-speed rail in our province. There will be, not will there be? There will be. That's a bit of a different turn of phrase. There will be a high-speed rail. So if we get a stop on the high-speed rail, that puts us 30 minutes from the Calgarys and the Edmontons. It'll be a transformational turn for us as it relates to development, particularly housing, real estate, lifestyle, and so on. If I'm in Calgary and I'm looking at a 3-bedroom home, 4-bedroom home, in any neighborhood really, and I'm putting out somewhere between $550,000 and $800,000, maybe $900,000, and I'm commuting already from Whitehorn, down into the southeast, Midnapore. It takes me half an hour anyway. So if you think of high-speed rail, so, being 30 minutes between Edmonton, Red Deer and Calgary. So we're pressing hard. Can your listeners hear this?
Yeah.
That means hard.
Hey, you can't. That's a fine for you.
Ken gets to do it. I get to do it.
Free for all. Yeah. That was for emphasis. Yeah.
That means hard on that issue. For sure. And I will say this is public. Andrew, to your question, we're completing an annexation on the northwest side of our city. It's a 150-acre annexation. It's going to be a $300 million development in that part of our city. We're driving towards getting it completed by the 1st of September this coming year. There's a formal process that annexation has to go through. So that's an amazing development on the northwest side of our city, just on the west side of Highway 2 by Lynn Valley. We're getting into public consultation now, that kind of thing. That will be an enormous development for Red Deer, and it doesn't depend on high-speed rail. The development company is ready to go. We just need to make the annexation and the public consultation happen, those kinds of things. And so you have these transformational, and again, I'll mention the hospital. I can't understate it, what a $1.8 billion construction project would be worth to Red Deer. And Red Deer Polytechnic is gearing up. They're turning out more nurses. They're turning out more apprentices. They're also a part of the picture. So when I talked about relationships early on or earlier in the interview, these are the kind of relationships that council needs to, and especially the mayor needs to be part of. The mayor needs to be at the table when these kinds of discussions are being held. And so stay tuned. If I'm talking to somebody in Ontario today and you're tired of being on the 401 or any other 400 series highway out there, and you're an hour and a half between work and that kind of thing, come out to a city that you can sell your home there, buy for cash out here, set yourself up on a retirement plan, and enjoy a lifestyle you wouldn't believe. And that's for sure. So that day is coming, Andrew. that day is coming, and we won't be taking a backseat to Calgary and Edmonton much longer.
That's perfect, Ken. All our Ontario listeners are just going to be thrilled.
And
Hey, we have one. Hi, Uncle Rob. Yeah.
you know, Uncle Rob, if you're looking at an ideal retirement, it's not where you're living. It's out here.
So did we hear it here first?
Yeah, did we just break the light speed rail?
Is that going to be the headline tomorrow? Oh dear, breaks the news that Alberta's getting high speed rail.
You think I'm going to edit this by tomorrow?
Well, this is hardly a secret. I mean, high-speed rail's been discussed in the province for years and years, and it isn't a certainty. So when I say there will be,
I remember you banging on the table, Mayor Ken.
Folks, can you hear that there will be high-speed rail in Alberta? I mean, it's going to occur because it's the economic engine that the whole corridor will benefit from. And so the province, of course, is in talks with a couple of providers and so on. I think it got stalled a little bit with some of the leadership issues and so on and so forth. So I'm looking. Are you ready for this? I'm looking for that issue to get back on the rails. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
Oh, this is too good.
Yeah, we might have to start a new podcast. Yeah.
Puns with the mayor.
Yeah. I guess so. Kevin Walsh couldn't be here tonight, but he's very invested too in the Red Deer Hospital, which you mentioned. Yes. So, obviously a hot button issue. What is, I guess, the process? Again, I don't have my phone in front of me. Maybe Dustin can make sure I ask the right question. But now what's the process too for like pushing the province and making sure that those funds that are promised get delivered when they were promised by? Did I get it?
Yep.
I think you got it. And we met last week with the infrastructure minister Newdorf, and he's the deputy premier for the province. And that really that was the question that we asked. In terms of what are the timelines? Is this project still moving forward? Where are we? Kind of thing. And I was very encouraged. Spoke to some of the local media around his answers. He was very upfront about it, and so on. There's a sort of a good news, bad news. Sort of the classic bad news is this project could take up to 10 years to get done. However, the good news part of that is as floors get built on the existing cancer center, if our folks are familiar with the cancer center, they'll know it's just on the west side of the hospital there, and there's an adjoining corridor, if you will, throughway, if you will. So the floors are going to get built onto the cancer center, and then a separate building for ambulatory care is also going to be built very proximate to the site. So that was news we didn't know before. And the best part of that is we won't have to wait, as I described, to cut a ribbon on a sort of a 10-year project. 10 years from now, we'll be able to use the floors as they're built. Mm-hmm. So that'll take some pressure. Off the hospital. This has been a long time coming. Our frontline people are, just desperate. Our doctors, nurses, respirologists, all those good people, physiotherapists are working so hard every day in a hospital that was never built for the capacity issues that it has right now, serving 500,000 people. That hospital's way beyond capacity. And so in the interim, there's the hope of some surgical clinics that are going to come and some better ambulance dispatch and so on. And those are issues, of course, that we're constantly in front of the province about. We're grateful for the support we're getting. A $1.8 billion project's a major community developer, but it couldn't come soon enough. And so right now we understand that the technical planning phase will start in early 2023. And hopefully, construction will start, one would hope early 2025. That's what I hope.
Good question, Aaron.
Just needed a break before I got.
Well, Londa, I know you have a question too, and there's snow questions that are off limits, so go ahead.
So Mayor Ken, I did let a few people know we were interviewing today, and the number one question they were begging me to ask you was, what's the plan with the snow removal this year? Has it changed from years past?
No.
And I know this isn't something that maybe you're you directly deal with, but I'm sure you get asked this question a lot this time of year.
Yeah.
We've seen, I don't know if it's an unprecedented amount of snow in the first week of November, but is there something households can kind of look forward to with this snow removal?
Yeah, definitely.
I'll kind of let you take it from there.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I just want to thank everybody for their patience over the last, say, week. I mean, it's just been, we've been hammered day after day with snowfalls and 5 centimeters, 10 centimeters, 10 more, 5 more, all those kinds of things. And what preceded that, of course, was a bit of, that freakish freezing rain, kind of mix that suddenly now we have a layer about an inch or two deep on the pavement, if you will, and the snow falls in. Then we had a mini Chinook on Friday. It's some more melting, then more snow on Saturday.
Alberta, baby.
And, yeah, you bet. So the policy that we adopted back in 2016, 2015, I'll say, was all about triggers, and it was all about priority routes and all those kinds of things. Plus, obviously, the sanding and salting and all those things. So that hasn't changed, but what has affected it over the last few days is it hasn't been a 24-hour period gone by when we didn't get another layer. Mm-hmm. So our crews will go back out and they'll take care of what's called purple routes. And a purple route are the arterial roads, the 30th Aves, the 40th Aves, the Taylor Drives, the downtown, the hospital access, those kinds of things. They'll take care of those first, then they'll clean out the downtown, and then they'll go into the neighborhoods. So starting Monday, the neighborhood plow program will start. And this is the earliest we've ever started it, in my memory, for sure. Typically these plows start January-ish, a kind of thing when we get that snowpack that becomes really problematic. So we've sped it up quite a bit. My understanding from Public Works, I talked to the Public Works manager today, and my understanding is the ice that the snow covered and so on is forming a difficult barrier and I'll just say that because I don't know the technical word,
right.
Technical barrier, anyway, I don't want to make light of it. People are struggling out there. But it's been resistant to brine and gravel and that kind of thing. So that's been problematic for us. So we are bringing the big bad boys out on Monday now to get the neighborhoods dug out. I live in Morris Row. I'm fortunate to live on McLean Street because it's a bus route. But buses make big ruts. Yeah. They make big ruts. And the last thing we need now is a warming spell or whatever to turn us into trolley tracks on every street and that kind of thing. So, help us on the way. Hang in there. Help your neighbor. Drive safe. All those things. The crews will be out and about now because we're getting a few days of sunshine. Which is enabling us to get off some of those priority routes and really ramp it up in the rest of the city, So my hat's off to all Red Deerians. Just hang in there, guys. We're getting the snow. We're going to come after it on Monday and we're going to get rid of it. And hopefully we don't get, the winter of 96 or the winter of 2013-14 when we got 100 centimeters of snow, so far we have about 38 or so. So, which has been over the last week. So, it sucks for all us drivers out there, but as a kid growing up, I just used to love when the plows would come and plow it all in the middle of your clothes or your little spot. And then you would just have the best toboggan or you could play King of the Hill. So, for the kids, I hope it snows a lot more, but for myself, I hope this is it for the year. Yeah, you and me both. I read in the paper this morning that a lot of garages are saying that only half of our citizens have their winter tires on, so you want to talk about a tough condition to be in. You have slippery streets and you're really not equipped for it at the same time. I've seen some people try to go up Ross Street and I know they don't have snow tires. They just stall at about 43rd or so, on the lights there and they have trouble, the rest of the way up. But, Yeah, it's really something. That plow is going to start on Monday. I think our communications department's already released that on our website, and if they haven't, they'll be doing it soon.
So hopefully Ted can edit this podcast and we can get it out before Monday.
No, this is actually coming out in like 2 weeks. So you're welcome. Hey, everyone, it's plowed. It's taken care of. Yeah.
And we have the nastiest little mini ski hills in every close in Red Deer.
Yeah, nice.
But and I would tell you talk about you don't want too warm a weather, but because I have to say the weather like 900 times a morning for my job now, it is going to be in plus temperatures again, like Sunday and Monday. So I don't know if that's a help or a detriment, but that's just kind of where we're at. I don't know if you know this too, but I feel like we've got more snow in the first week of November than we might have got all of last year.
I haven't checked that specifically, but it would not surprise me at all. Very unscientific measurement. I've got a garden statue just off my deck. Now, you want to talk about unscientific. This is it. So I got this garden statue, and it's about 4 feet tall, just off the deck. And so as I push snow out the deck, it eventually buries the garden statue. Normally, the garden statue doesn't get buried till, I would say, Valentine's Day, somewhere in there, so mid-February. That garden statue is about ready to send up an SOS now. and so very unscientific, but if the garden statue is telling us anything, we're certainly very close to what we got all of last winter, that's for sure.
I think we should get a 24-hour live cam on that garden statue, and that's how everyone in Red Deer can check how the snowfall.
Yeah, good point.
So, Ken, you've mentioned, back to the hospital piece, you mentioned that you've had a lot of communication with the provincial government. I'm just curious to know that since there's been a change in the premier, has the communication with the provincial government changed at all? Are you dealing with different people now than you were before? Is the conversation any different than it was previously? Where are things at with that?
Well, it's a great question. Certainly the new government has been up and running for 3 weeks or so, 2-3 weeks since they got sworn in. So on the very first day, I'm trying to remember the actual date. Was it the 25th maybe of October? I think that was the swearing in. I recall it was a Friday anyway. So we called the new cabinet ministers on the hospital file the afternoon after their swearing in. So they got sworn in at about 11 o'clock. We got on the line at about 2 o'clock and started lining up the meetings with them. And as I said, we met with the infrastructure minister last Wednesday. So that was only about 4 or 5 days after, getting sworn in. And so I think that is an extremely positive sign that they responded very, very quickly to our request for a meeting, and then started talking about building up on the cancer center, the new building that's proximate, and so on. These were things that we had not heard over the last, ever really, since the premier came down in February, so 9 months or so ago, and announced the hospital. There were never any real details about it. We were kind of left wondering, what will it look like? Where will it be? Things like that. So if that's any indication, that early, attention that we got, I think it's a very, very good sign. Certainly the Minister Neudorf, Deputy Premier Neudorf, committed to coming down into the community in the new year, kind of doing a little bit of a town hall kind of a thing, because I think the community itself would really like to ask the province. At this point in time, we're a bit of the intermediary, if you will. We advocate for the community and for Central Alberta on this issue. But I'm really encouraged that that's one of the things that he said was a possibility for 2023. So I think it's a good sign, and it's something that we were encouraged about when they. And it wasn't just him; it was Minister Nixon on the shelter. We met with him last Monday. We met with Minister Milliken, who's on the addiction side, and. We met with Minister Schultz, who's the new Minister of Municipal Affairs, all inside the last week. So those are good signs. Those are good signs.
So, Mayor Ken, I think one thing too, I'm lucky enough every morning, right? I hear the news, read the news off of rdnewsnow.com. So I know a lot of what's going on in the political landscape, admittedly more than I'd like. But I know, and I can't remember the name of it, but I know there's also like a coalition of like mid-sized city mayors that you just had a meeting with. With some I didn't know existed, but it's pretty cool that you have that network too. And the mayors of, I don't know what the population is like for those cities, but maybe just talk a little bit about that. I just thought that was something cool.
It's called the Mid-Sized Mayors Caucus. So it's a gathering of, gosh, I'm going to say 22, I could be wrong, 23, 24 cities across the province. Calgary and Edmonton are their own sort of group, if you will, and good luck to them all, I say. But anyway, so the mid-sized mini cities caucus would have cities like, for example, Cold Lake. It'd have obviously Lethbridge, Sylvan Lake, for example, Lacombe. Population over 10,000 is really the threshold for that. So collectively, the 22 cities represent just over 1 million people in the province. So, as a united voice, and typically cities of that size, for example, ourselves, Grand Prairie, Fort McMurray, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, Airdrie, Cochrane, have similar issues, similar challenges. Andrew mentioned economic development, things like that, housing, affordability, taxes, et cetera. And so they also have issues they want to deal with the province on. All Alberta municipalities have a body called, well, let's not get fancy. It's called Alberta Municipalities, AM. So that group represents all municipalities right across the province, cities, towns, the whole 10 yards. This group is that mid-sized group and has a lot more commonality with it. So yeah, we just did some meetings in Airdrie and had some press releases around funding formulas, all those things that are exciting for politicians. Maybe not as vital as snow and ice, but they're still very, very important. So it's a great group.
Does the group chat get pretty heated in those? Does the group chat get pretty heated for that mid-sized mayor?
The group chat can get pretty heated from time to time, depending on on who's getting what and who's doing what, and that kind of thing. And of course, we always like to poke fun at the big urban.
That's what I mean. Is there trash talk going on?
Well, a little bit.
In Calgary.
But we respect them too. Of course, they're the big engines in.
Yeah, they're trying their best.
They're doing their best. They're coping. Yeah. Let's put it that way.
All right. Well, I know, and Oh Deer has never been known as like a hard-hitting news entity. So lots of great information. Though I know, Aaron, you've been waiting in the wings for a less serious question.
I want to know, in your year as mayor, what the most fun or exciting thing you've been a part of has been. I know there's a lot of really, there's a lot of things that really impact people and a lot of issues that I'm sure weigh on you. But I want to hear about something fun and exciting.
Before tonight. This doesn't
because
count,
of course, who could cap this? Yeah. I mean, really, who could cap this? That's not an easy question to answer because there's so many events during the year and you encounter so many people. I would have to say, in terms of, if I was to pick the most fun in a group setting, rather than just sort of an encounter with someone, I would say it was the reading invitation I got from grade 5 class that was up at St. Thomas there. They've got a fantastic group of teachers up there and kids and that kind of thing. And it's kind of funny. And God bless the grade 5s. They're 11 years old or so, 12 years old. They think
14 for Dustin.
14 for Dustin. It's all good. Really. But they think the mayor is some kind of god. I mean, it's pretty cool from that perspective. And so it's really amazing. Yeah, exactly. So I would say in terms of just the pure joy of being around kids that are still in that formative phase, they ask such fantastic questions. They study local government, but you always get the question as, do you love cats or something? It's just and you come out of there exactly.
Actually, I would also like to know the answer to that.
Well, I had 3 cats. I'm down to 2. We lost one, but anyway,
way to go.
There's just a sense of wonder. Just a sense of wonder. You come out of there and you just see a different perspective on life, and so that's been really great. But yeah, it's really hard to pin it down to one. But if I had to, I'd probably land there. Yeah.
So, Mayor Ken, as we start to wrap up here, I'm going to go back to grade 5 for a second.
Awesome.
Edmonton Oilers or Calgary Flames?
Well, another great question, and this is a hard hitting show. I'm going to be sad when you guys shut this thing down, but
I won't.
It's kind of funny when the Oilers and Flames played in May or so, or can't remember the exact date, but say May or so, somewhere around there. For promotion, I had a jersey, half Oilers and half Flames, and every news outfit in the country picked up on this. Red Deer smack in the middle of Alberta. What could the population be thinking? And I don't know if we've ever done a survey as to where our city is hockey wise, but I'd be willing to bet it's pretty close to 50-50 between the two, and so that's really what I was trying to portray. However, the question is, Mayor, what is it? And so at risk of not being reelected, folks, and I'm in this for leadership and for nothing else. I've got to land on the Flames. That's where I am. I lived in Calgary for 7 years, and I saw the Flames in the glory year, I'll say. There were some years that they threatened to do something.
You didn't like the Young Guns years?
But no, the glory year was a great one. And but something I will say, I really think this is becoming a bit of a golden age for hockey in Alberta again. Isn't that fantastic? It wouldn't surprise me at all see these two teams go deep again into the playoffs. And hats off. And God bless the Oilers, I love them, but hats off to the Flames for, losing a couple of big names, in Tkachuk and Goudreau this year, and yet being able to get out there and find some players, like Kadri, for example, to come and step in. So Flames are on a bit of a skid. They're losing a couple of games in overtime.
Teams, yeah.
Oilers are struggling a bit.
Hopefully by the time this comes out, they're kind of back.
Yeah, so January 2nd.
Absolutely.
Check in.
Absolutely, so. Yeah.
All right, we'll cut right here, and then you can say all the good things about the Oilers next.
Yeah. No, the good news is... I don't think anyone who listens to this podcast votes probably. So,
I vote.
I don't listen to this podcast.
I would hope that they do vote. I'm ready to give her on civic duty right now, but it's all good.
Okay, I got one last question for real. I'm now graduated.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's from grade 5.
Yeah, from grade 5. No, but fast forward 3, 10, 15 years when you are retired from being mayor, what's one thing that you want people to look back on Mayor Ken Johnston when he was the mayor of Red Deer? Sort of what's your legacy piece that you hope people look back on?
Well, that's a fantastic question, and I really haven't thought of a legacy piece, but what I would like, and I'll just say it this way, what I would like if I stay for 1 term or 2 terms or whatever, Father Time will, I think, determine that and that kind of thing. What I would like is to redefine or set the bar for what a mayor should be doing, and I've always looked at the role of the mayor, and I think I might have said this off the top of the podcast today, that the mayor is really the face of the city, the ambassador of the city's number one fan, the city's number one promoter. So I'd like to be looked at, as I say, I'm not looking for a building. I'm not looking for, some kind of, a public amenity or whatever the case may be. Those things happen and they'll happen in due time. What I'd like my legacy to be was he redefined what the mayor should look like in our city and the next mayor has that bar and more to go, that it's a high bar. So if I could imagine anything in leaving, Dustin, great question. It would be a high bar, and the community needs, if it's 2025 or 2029, I'm not sure where we'll land, but I think the community will say, hey, we had a mayor from 2021 to say 2025, and we're not going to take anything less than what we had in 2025 or 2029. And that's the way public service should be. Set the bar and let your predecessor come in and move it some more. The time for leadership, half baked, half energized, half committed leadership. It's no wonder the public sometimes gets disillusioned, with leaders and that kind of thing. So when I go out, we're going to be going out with guns blazing, and the way we came in, the same way. So great question, and we'll see what 2025 looks like.
Yeah. Dustin's finally asking questions at an 8th grade level, and the whole freaking podcast is ending. That's ironic, eh? But it's funny you talk about energy, and I think if you ask me personally, I think that's one of the biggest things you bring to your role as mayor. But if you could pat yourself on the back, or like maybe it's that, what do you think is your greatest strength, as a mayor that you bring to the role?
Well, there's certainly the practical side of it, the 40 years that I had in banking and all those kind of things. But, if I was to say what the greatest strength of any political person or public service person would be is, firstly, don't take yourself too seriously. Don't take yourself as being the second coming of whatever, a kind of thing. It's not that. And I think I said earlier, leadership is something that should come to you and then be affirmed by the community. It shouldn't be something where you wake up one morning and say, I'd be a hell of a mayor today. I really would. And I'm going to give it a shot.
I've said that so many times.
Just looking in the mirror. I could be mayor.
I'd really, it's just
that's
something
what's going on upstairs.
I'm not sure if I'll change my tires or run for mayor. I'm really not sure. That is not the reason why you should seek office. So greatest strength would be understanding that this is a role that the public gives to you, and it's loosely held. You don't sign a 10-year contract, or you don't you take the hopes and aspirations of the people upon you, and that keeps you in a very, or should keep you in a very sober frame of mind, in a good space, so that when you wake up in the morning, you don't have to wonder who you are. You are the servant of the people. So, there's a practical side of being able to look at issues and events and all those good things. But really, if you come in with that, and I'll say the servant's heart. If you come in with the servant's heart and the servant's mind, you're gonna stay on your feet, and that's the bottom line. So.
Oh, well, I guess I'll just ask a personal question, since I guess I'm following your career now, first being a banker.
You have woken up a lot of mornings going, whoa, who am I? Where am I? What happened?
Yeah. So I've done the banking thing. I'm not gonna go after it. I'm gonna let it come to me, like you said. Can I right here, right now, get your recommendation, or can you tap me for Mayor of Red Deer 2056?
There's a statute on this to like 2050.
We're gonna play back the tape in 34 years.
Well,
I know we just met, Mayor Ken, but I feel like we're very, very similar.
Well, we're certainly male. That part we know for sure, and of course there's the banking side of it, But to you or anyone else out there, I'll say this: if you are not completely infatuated with the city you live in, don't even think about running for public office. You have to love the city that you live in. You have to be able to say, I not only care about today's, environment, if you will, and I don't mean that in the geographical sense, but if you care about the city that's 10 years out or 20 years out, and you're still as infatuated with the city from that perspective, if you see every Red Deerian as a city builder, an ambassador, a person who's building an environment for others to succeed, him or her, which is why I love teachers, because they invest in generations and generations and generations. I love teachers because their whole life is investing on that next generation. And public service is no different. You can't survive public service with the, shall we say, from time to time, critical feedback of the public, unless you're in love with the city that you serve. It's like any relationship, your wife, your partner, or whatever the case may be. There are lots of days when you wish there wasn't toothpaste in the sink, or there wasn't hair on the hairbrush, and all that kind of stuff. But because you love that person, you'll see beyond some of that, and you invest in that person. A city is no different. If you want to be mayor in 2056, you need to love the city starting today, not like the city. You need to love the city, and you'll be well prepared in 2056.
All right, that's great advice. Wow,
that's a great note to end on. Turning that stupid of a question into that great of an answer. I mean, that's really good. Yeah,
decent question, I thought.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, yeah. We could debate that offline, but again, we could talk to you, Mayor Ken, for hours and hours. And I think even though the podcast itself is ending, I think we should do another sit down, even just for YouTube, social media, because there's obviously lots more we can ask you. But thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I can't imagine a better final guest for the podcast. And we've had some pretty terrible guests on this show through 30 plus, and they know who they are. So no, I'm just kidding with that. But and we forgot to do this with our last couple guests. We want to show you a token of appreciation for taking the time to be here. And what do you get the man who has everything? Well, you get him a limited edition.
Folks, I'm now being handed a brown envelope. It's a bulky.
With cash.
It is a bulky brown envelope. I'm not sure I want to open it, but no, I'm not.
This is the bulky part, actually.
Okay,
that you say that. You get a limited edition Oh Dear Firefighter calendar photo, all for yourself. I can imagine this just hanging right when you walk in City Hall. That is all yours. No need to thank us.
I will say I'm becoming hot-blooded. Check it and see. That's all I have to say about that. This really... I'd like to say this will go in the office, but that would be a lie.
Yeah. Unless you start calling your garbage the office. Yeah.
But it is stunning. I will say that is stunning. And certainly unexpected. Yeah. So
there's even a smaller, like a travel size.
Yeah, of course
for
there
you.
is. Of course
so you
there
keep
is.
It in your
Naturally,
glove box
I could
car.
put it on the visor of the car. I could.
Oh my God.
Wow. I have to say.
That's how it's. If this podcast wasn't going off the air, we'd probably get canceled for giving the mayor of Red Deer this pic. I will say though, that was for charity. So
I always appreciate a gift that's valued under $50.
Yeah.
So I will say that.
Just wait till we sign it; it'll be worth less.
If it's over 50, I have to declare it publicly. But under 50, and this certainly ranks under 50. So I really do appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much.
Good. Yeah. If it was out of 100, too, if you're ranking that picture. And our bodies, it is way under 50.
It's rank. I will say it's rank. It's certainly rank.
Well, Your Worship, thank you very much for coming in. I'm so sorry you had to see this.
Call him that. Mayor Ken.
Yeah, you learn nothing.
It's all good. I mean,
we're pals now. At least I didn't call him dog. I'm so sorry Ted gave you that photo. This was news to us.
It's certainly revealing, I will say.
It reveals what we're willing to do for the community.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And should we call you next year when we do the calendar again? Or
no, I think that's not necessary, but I will give you my mailing address and you can certainly send it.
We'll take that as a win.
Yeah. Well, now that I basically ruined your life by giving you this photo, again, thank you so much for coming. I think it was really great to sit down and chat with you, and hopefully all our listeners got a lot out of that too. So,
I hope so. Yeah.
Again, it's always great to chat with you, and for more than 5 minutes, because on the radio, that's all we really get with you. So thank you again for coming, and good luck moving forward, and I hope we can catch up with you soon.
Awesome, guys. And, wherever the trail will lead you, I hope it's a great one. And, continue to do what you're doing, communicating. It's not something that people get tired of. In fact, they crave it, kind of thing. So it's been a slice being here today. It's an honor and privilege to be in the role that I'm in, and I'm grateful, and I'm looking forward to three more years. And let's all build this city.
Thanks, Mayor Ken.
Yeah. Keep doing what we're doing, except for these photos.
Oh dear.